Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, Vietnam are together mounting an offensive against Chinese belligerence, and CCP tyrant Xi Jinping is shaking in his boots already. Want to know how? Watch this video by TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group, as I, Sanbir Singh, walk you through all the major anti-China geostrategic maneuvers that are currently underway in the South China Sea. Chinese expansionism and belligerence are being resisted in the South China Sea and the East China Sea by countries like Japan, Vietnam, Taiwan, and the Philippines. Since January, the South China Sea has witnessed a spike in tensions as Chinese President Xi Jinping empowered China's Coast Guard to open fire at all foreign vessels intruding into what China calls its territorial waters. To the same effect, the Chinese Coast Guard has been accorded the right by Jinping to shoot at sight upon all foreign vessels throughout the South China Sea, since Beijing claims almost the entirety of the water body for itself. With the Chinese Coast Guard being so brazenly empowered, ASEAN countries have not been sitting and spectating mutely. As a matter of fact, their resolve to defend the territorial sovereignty and integrity of not just their lands, but of their exclusive economic zones as well, has only grown stronger in recent weeks. Further, the strong sense of activism with which China and the Quad are addressing the situation in the Indo-Pacific has gone a long way in lifting the morale of smaller countries in the region, bullied by China since eternity. In the most recent development, Taiwan has begun mass production of a long-range missile and is developing 3 other models, a senior official said on Thursday in a rare admission of efforts to develop strike capacity amid growing Chinese pressure. As reported by TFI, the deputy director of Taiwan's state-owned National Chung-Shan Institute of Science and Technology, Leng Chin-Shu, said one long-range land-based missile has already entered production, with 3 other long-range missiles currently in development. The US and Taiwan have also signed an agreement intended to boost cooperation between their coast guards in a move to push back at China's increasing assertiveness in maritime activities. Soon after the same was announced, 20 Chinese military aircraft entered Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone on Friday, in the largest incursion yet reported by the island's defense ministry and marking a dramatic escalation of tensions across the Taiwan Strait. Essentially, any country that tries to challenge the open fire policy of China in the South China Sea will be immediately bullied. Yet, Taiwan is not being intimidated by such boring signature tactics of PLA wimps. Instead, it is banking on friendly neighbors, particularly Japan, to help it address the China threat. Japan had recently made it known that in case of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, the democratic island nation would be protected at all costs, using brute force against China if necessary. As reported by TFI, Japanese and US defense chiefs have agreed in their recent meeting in Tokyo to closely cooperate in the event of a military clash between China and Taiwan. The premise of such an understanding being reached too was the rampant Chinese incursions of Taiwan's sovereign airspace. In that context, the recent 20 aircraft incursion by China must be read as a warning by Xi Jinping to all countries concerned to not get involved in its conflict with Taiwan. Unfortunately for him, the global community has stopped taking China seriously. In its neighborhood too, countries that have historically been victims of Chinese belligerence are now standing up to it. Case in point being the Philippines, which, with the support of Japan, is deploying its naval assets for sovereignty patrols in the South China Sea, where a Chinese flotilla or a militia fleet of over 200 boats has surrounded a disputed reef and ignored Manila's demand to leave the area. The deployment of the Philippines' naval assets to counter the presence of Chinese militia in the area is an open warning to the PLA and Xi Jinping. Manila will no longer take Chinese misadventures lying down. It must be remembered that after the militia assumes control of the area, the Chinese Coast Guard would step in and pretend as if the disputed reef and area have always been a sovereign part of China. It would then bring into action the new Chinese policy of opening fire at foreign vessels against the Philippines and completely wrest control of the region. The new Coast Guard policy of China could thus incite a war in the South and East China Seas. Vietnam, which is a part to the group of countries having coinciding claims in the South China Sea, said that the recent Chinese massing of over 200 ships with militia on board was an infringement of its sovereignty. Vietnam's foreign ministry spokeswoman on Thursday said Vietnam requests that China stop this violation and respect Vietnam's sovereignty. Earlier, as reported by TFI, in an attempt to shore up the defense of the Spratly Islands, Vietnam carried out intricate military work at Pearson Reef and Nam Yet Island by adding additional rhodomess dome-shaped structures used to shield radar antennas and other administrative buildings. Moreover, newer and longer-range gun systems, including artillery rocket systems purchased from none other than Israel, have been mounted on Vietnamese outposts in the island chain. China is thus being challenged on every step of the way by its neighboring countries. The paper dragon now has two choices: give up its ridiculous maritime claims and let peace prevail in the region, or be the bullish fool that it is and get thrashed in an all-out war which will not be limited to the region's nations alone.